Welcome to Lead the Way with Anna Gauker. Your guide, Anna Gauker, is on a quest of her own to find effective ways of creating change and inclusion in our communities. You have come to the right place if you believe in truth, justice, and coffee. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, this is Lead the Way, and I'm Anna Gauker. All of our content can be found on Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn, and Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to take a minute to rate, review, and subscribe. Lead the Way is a vehicle to explore unique leadership styles and innovative solutions to big problems facing our communities. In this episode, we will be learning from Amber Radatz, co-director of UW Discovery Farms, where they collaborate with private farmers and research sustainable farming practices. Please enjoy. Could you start out by talking a bit about your background and how you got started with UW Discovery Farms?
I grew up on a dairy farm here in western Wisconsin, actually in Trempealeau County, where I live now. And when I was growing up on the dairy farm, I didn't realize how unique of an experience I had, and I was not in love with being there. But so then I went to school at Madison at the University of Wisconsin, and then I realized that maybe I would have a unique opportunity to be able to work with farmers to help them sort of continuously improve their operations. And I was able to do an internship with UW Discovery Farms. And from then on, I just felt like this was a great place for me to be able to work in this intersection between agriculture and water quality, because it seemed like something that not everyone can understand both sides of it. And so it seemed like my background was a really good fit for me to be able to talk to all of the people that are involved and help to help farmers really continuously improve their operations.
What was your major at UW?
I was a soil science graduate, and I got both my master's and my bachelor's in soil science.
Oh my gosh.
Did you even know there was a soil science major
No,
at Madison?
I was just thinking that, like, I never knew I could have even studied that here. How did you discover that?
Yeah, I didn't know when I came to school there either. Like I said, I wasn't in love with the farm when I was on it as a kid. And so my plan was to be in the business school at Madison. And then I just realized I missed the people. And so I tried out animal science, but then I realized I don't have I don't have the heart for having to, sort of like doctor animals and do those sorts of things, and I don't have a brain that
Right.
I can memorize all of the animal parts. And so I kind of fell into soil science, and I love that it explains a lot of the world for me.
This is kind of a side tangent, but now I'm so curious. Like, when you got your bachelor's in soil science, how did that differentiate from the master's program? Like,
Mhm.
how was your education heightened through the master's?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I really never intended to get a master's degree until I graduated with my bachelor's. And um, in a bachelor's degree, you really take a lot of classes, and it's all classwork, right?
Right.
except for if you have a job opportunity or something on the side. But then in my master's program, it was like I was doing research out in the field. And so I was taking a few classes, but then the big part of it is to do that work out in the field, kind of like testing a hypothesis and doing the research, and then actually writing the thesis papers to go along with that research.
What was your thesis on?
It was on groundwater levels in the central sands, which in Wisconsin is where we grow most of our vegetables. And that is like Stevens Point area.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I was going out like in the wintertime and all year long collecting samples or collecting information about how much groundwater was fluctuating in different seasons and under different vegetation types.
And you had your internship with Discovery Farms. Would you talk a bit about how UW Discovery Farms first got started?
Yeah. Yeah, so Discovery Farms was started in Wisconsin in 2001. And it was started because farmers were looking for a way to understand their impact on water quality because there was a lot of regulations and rules being proposed at that time that farmers felt like they could infuse more science into that was from different parts of the state and different scales. So a lot of agricultural science is conducted at small scales, and what Discovery Farms was able to do was to bring that up to a bigger scale, like a field scale, what farmers normally work in. So it was started in 2001 as a program of the university. Um, and when I came on as an intern, that was in 2004. And so they were really just starting to be able to have um, data to talk about and things to talk to farmers about. And it's really just blossomed from there.
How big of an office is it? How many people are part of your day to day?
Not very big. So we have in total, there are 7 of us that work in Wisconsin, and we're kind of spread around the state. There's 4 of us here in the office in Pigeon Falls, and a couple of people in Green Bay in a different office, and 1 person in Madison. So it's a pretty small crew. We have tons of partners that help us out, and so that's what allows us to do work all over the state. Um, we also have, there's also Discovery Farms programs in Minnesota and Arkansas and Washington, and they're all doing similar work through farmers and partnerships. And it's kind of a fun group to get together when we can get together.
Are there events or conferences where all of the Discovery Farms places collaborate and get together?
Well, so there isn't always, but this January we're actually going to have one. And so the unique part about Discovery Farms is that we do research on privately owned farms. And so the really cool part is being able to get the farmers together that are hosting this water quality monitoring, because then they start to talk about their practices and their farms. And really that's when we get to just sit back and listen and learn from them.
For people who are not familiar with Discovery Farms and what you do, how do you describe your work?
That's a good question. I think my mom is always still trying to figure out how to describe my work. um, what I would say is that I work with farmers to help them understand the water quality impacts of their conservation and nutrient management practices. Farming is the largest land base in Wisconsin, and so we need to understand its water quality impact so that we can continue to protect our natural resources, improve them where necessary, and farmers have a real role in that. So my job is to really empower farmers to know their role in that.
Would you talk a bit about the different projects that you're working on?
Yeah, Great. So one of the main projects that we have is our water quality monitoring projects. And we have a couple of, so what we do is install sites that are there in place for like 5 to 7 years on that farm. And so right now we have sites in place. There's 2 farms in Rock County that are hosting sites. We have 2 farms in Kewaunee County. We have 2 farms in Langlade County, and then 2 farms in Juneau County that are all hosting our water quality monitoring sites. We also have 14 farmers in the northeast part of the state that are helping us understand more about a different kind of agricultural practice called tile drainage. And so that practice is there to help farmers whose fields are too wet to be able to use them for production. We help understand the water quality impacts of that practice as well. And then our last project that we have working right now has involved over 80 farmers in the state, and that's called nitrogen use efficiency. And we're really working with them to be able to document their nitrogen use from the beginning of the season till the end of the season, and how much the crop is taking up and where improvements could be made that would help them be more profitable and then also help environmentally.
Will you talk a bit about like the decision to have it be focused on private farming rather than corporate farming?
Mm-hmm.
What's the thought process?
Yeah, so I think, so I wasn't around when they made the decision to do the work on privately owned farms instead of on research stations. And so, but what I think the thought process there was that when when farmers are working out in their fields, they have so many things that they have to take into consideration, that really the advantage of having this type of monitoring all around the state allows them to have more information about their specific landscape characteristics and soil characteristics, and the specific challenges that they're dealing with. So when we talk about working on privately owned farms, we are talking about farmers and farm families and farms of all sizes that we have done water quality monitoring with, and really are just allowing farmers to be some of the data collectors so that they can use their information right on their farm as they're making decisions. And then that extends to people that are in similar landscapes or have similar farming systems. It's just a way to really be able to extend messages much further and get data to people so that they can implement it and use it immediately for their practices on their farm.
So, if I understand correctly, the whole operation is run by a steering committee of farmers. Can you talk a bit about how you recruit members?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our steering committee, um, right now, the way that it works is that we have farmer members on there that represent different agricultural organizations in the state. So we have members from dairy groups, from corn, soybeans, Farm Bureau, Farmers Union, and then we also welcome members that are focused on environmental quality in the state too, like Wisconsin Wetlands Association, our Wisconsin Land and Water Association. So we really have this great diverse group that gets together, and we call our program farmer-led because of the way that private farmers volunteer to have monitoring done, but also because of the way that farmers serve on this committee and work really closely with us to help us decide what research needs to be done for them to be able to improve their operations.
Talk a bit about developing those relationships. Like, how has it been to collaborate with farmers and build that trust that's necessary in what you do?
Yeah, so I think it's just like building relationships in any parts of our lives. And so being able to build our relationships with farmers is really based in the fact that we respect what they do. We respect that there are times of the year or situations where they're not available for us, and try to respect their time. We also just sort of lay the ground rules from the beginning that we're just going to be honest with each other. And so what that means for us is that when there's things that need to be improved on the farm, we're going to talk honestly about how to do that. And then we're also going to, as we present data and use the information that we've collected on their farms, as we present that to other people, we will be respectful of their operation then too, by trying to make sure that even when we can use their data to help someone else learn something, we don't tie it back to them specifically. Just try to be respectful of them in that way. But I think what we've learned is that it's so rewarding for us, because we really feel like it's a two-way street, and we learn just as much from the farmers as they are going to learn from us.
And you're really connecting the farmers and the researchers to different government agencies,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Yeah, yep. So I feel like Discovery Farms' role is to kind of talk in the middle. So we talk to farmers, we talk to agencies, we talk to um, rule makers, policymakers. We talk to concerned citizens and citizen groups, things like that. So what we do is to really play this middle role and infuse science into all of those conversations.
Are there resources available when you're making these findings based on the research about what farmers can or should be doing to improve an environmental impact? Are they connected to resources to help them implement that?
Yeah, so if a big change needs to be made, then we can help connect them with government folks like land conservation departments or the Natural Resources Conservation Service or things like that. There's also other groups that are really there as partners for farmers too, like DNR. Some private conservation groups have been really good partners for farmers now too. A lot of times what we have found with our information is that it's just a management change that needs to be made. So it wouldn't necessarily cost a lot of money or be a huge change, but tweaks in management can make a big difference for farmers and for their water quality resulting from that.
What do you mean by management?
Mhm. So one of the things we talk about is like manure management and nutrient management that's used for fertilizing crops. And so one of the tweaks we talk about is just the timing of application of those things. So if we're thinking about when is a good time to spread manure or when is a good time to fertilize crops, we're able to use our information to talk about when runoff occurs, and runoff would be when water leaves the surface of any of our agricultural fields. And so we have enough data to talk about the months when that occurs, how much occurs, so to really be able to kind of give people like a feeling of the amount of risk of different management practices. Other things that we've helped farmers with is helping them understand how to reduce, say, the amount of soil disturbance or the number of times that you have to plow to be able to grow a crop, because there might be advantages to leaving the soil undisturbed for longer in the year so that soil doesn't move with rainstorms in the spring or things like that. Another one that's really been popular is cover crops, and having something kind of green and growing through most of the year, even when it's white out. Um, and so being able to help farmers understand how to bring those management practices in. None of them require a huge change in equipment or in, some like big costly practice. Those are all just management pieces.
For you specifically, how do you feel like you are best suited for this role? What is your unique strength that you bring to this work?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that my background being raised on a farm is one of my unique characteristics, but I also think that personally, I feel that all people are people, and that's where we need to start. And so I think that that allows me to be able to talk to people with a variety of different opinions on a bunch of different topics and be able to try to help us all find some kind of middle ground where we can agree on, and then also figure out what are some action steps that we need to be taking in the short and long term. So I think that, like, for me, I'm a person that really I like being able to have a good discussion. I like being able to try to find solutions. And so in this role, that's been really, really important and something that I think is made me well suited.
Myself, I have to admit I'm so clueless about farming and everything that I should know, especially given that I come from a family of many farmers.
Mhm.
My grandpa is in his 80s and he's still a beef farmer
Oh,
and
wow.
he's still going at it. And my mom grew up heavily involved in farming and everything that was expected of her and her siblings. And then I come along and am, you know, people talk about baling hay and all these lingo things that I'm just like, you know, unaware of so many things. And I feel like I'm really not alone in that, which is shocking since our nation was sort of founded on farming. And back in the day, everyone was a farmer or a farmer and something else. So, what do you feel like people today should know as responsible consumers, and just how can we be less clueless in the decisions that we're making in the public?
Gosh, that's such a great question. I think that I think we all have our own unique talents and skill sets, right? So there's a lot of things that you know a lot about that I would be totally clueless about. But I think, and that's what really makes the ability to have conversations with each other a really great advantage that we have. I guess as far as doing your part as a consumer, I would if agriculture and where food comes from and how food is produced is something that's interesting to you, trying to connect with a farmer and hearing about what's important to them and hearing about how they produce what they produce and why they do it that way, and just getting down to who the people are, I think is really, really critical. We sometimes hear things about thank a farmer if you ate today or something like that. And I think that's true, but we all have those special skills. And I think farmers are people that are so passionate about what they do and being able to provide food for our nation's people, that being able to connect with them, whether it's through social media or going on a farm tour or just having a chat on the phone or something like that. I think that farmers feel like not a lot of people understand what they do. And then consumers also feel like they don't understand what happens at the farm either. And so there's just a real great opportunity to get connected and to
I
seek
agree.
out more information if that's what you're interested in.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So, Friend of Farmer,
Yeah.
is there an app for that?
Maybe we should create one. I mean, I think there's lots of different ways. I mean, I see so many farmers on social media now, but there's lots of different ways to get in contact with farmers. If you're interested in dairy farmers, our Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin group is really great at connecting people with some of the dairy farmers in the state. There's for any type of product that's produced, there's ways to get in touch with people, and I think farmers are really welcoming to having people really understand more about what they're doing.
Is there hope for our environment? And I'm hoping you say some form of yes. So, if yes, how are farmers part of it?
Hey, that's such a great question. So yes, there's yeah, what just like you predicted, Anna. So yes, I really do think there's hope. I think if we think about the changes that have happened in our world in the past 50 years, a lot of changes have happened in agriculture in that time. And the way that farmers use data and information on their farms now is so quickly changing the pace of business for them. And so the way that farmers are involved in these environmental solutions is the way that they drive demand for new technology that will help them be more sustainable. They are able to use data to implement solutions more quickly than we were in the past because they have so much of their own information from their own farm. There's all of these precision agriculture technology pieces that they're already implementing, and all of those pieces can be used to create practices that are more environmentally friendly for them. So what we have seen as this piece of hope is just that farmers are willing and able to use information to continue to better their practices, and they have just as much stake in the environment as the rest of us because they need to be able to have soil that stays where it should be and is productive for years to come, and their families drink the water on the farms just like the rest of us. So really farmers are, I would say, at the table and almost leading a lot of the discussions when it comes to this, and I'm just so heartwarmed to see all of the partners come together to have these discussions. So I think that's where the hope is.
Thank you to Amber Radatz. You can find us on Facebook at Lead the Way Podcast to follow all updates for future episode content. This episode was brought to you by the time and talent of Buzz Kemper and Tyler Willenbrink. I'm Anna Gauker. Until next time.